friends, I wish you a very, very warm welcome. Yes, it's Mr Dilly Meets. We are back. Getting a nice big clap going across the country here today as we welcome the wonderful, brilliant, and, well, you'll know her books, is the wonderful M.G. Leonard. Here we go. Round of applause. You're on the show. Hello, how are you? Nice to see you. How's it all going?
Yeah, I'm very well. I am talking to you from my writing shed. It's a little cabin at the bottom of my garden. I can hear the wind blowing crazily outside, but it's nice and warm in here. This is where I write all my books, as you can see.
This is fantastic. Now we've got a lot to come into today. We're going to talk about your wonderful latest new book in a series. Let's put it. You can see it behind it, but I'm going to hold it up as well. Hunt for the Golden Scarab in just a minute. But obviously, you've written loads of books. I'll hand over to you to tell us a bit about your kind of, I don't know, your author journey and the kind of the books that you've written before we get into your latest.
Well, there are two things you probably need to know about me if you've never read any of my stories before. The first thing that is kind of the core of my personality is that I love beetles. I'm obsessed with beetles. I think they are the most incredible creatures on planet Earth. I've been in love with beetles for a long time now. I've had beetle pets for about 10 years. This is a rhinoceros beetle called Arnie, named after Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was my pet for a couple of years. He sadly passed away over the summer. But I keep beetles at home like pets. I am the vice president of an insect charity called Bug Life, and I do spend a lot of my time trying to make people understand just how important insects are, but just how beautiful they are as well. In Hunt for the Golden Scarab, the scarab that they are searching for is made of gold, and we'll talk more about those kinds of scarabs in a little bit. But most people don't know there are some beetles on this planet that look like they're made of gold, and I have a little one in a case here. Look at that. That is a real insect, and it looks like it's made of gold, but actually it's not. It's just got an iridescent exoskeleton. So I'm a collector of insects and insect knowledge, and I've written at least 6 books about beetles. That's how much I love them. The other thing that you should know about me is that I love adventures. So I love beetles and I love adventures, and in my perfect world, I'd write adventures with beetles, of course. But I have written other stories. So what you can see on your screen right now is a selection of the books that I have written. These aren't every single book I've written, but these are most of them. And in this slide, what you can see down the bottom is my series of adventures on trains. I love trains and train travel, and these are all detective mystery stories. And on the top row, you can see my Twitches series in the middle there, which is about 7 birdwatching detectives who solve crimes. And then, of course, Beetle Boy is the ultimate adventure with beetles, and The Ice Children is an adventure to save winter. So I only write adventures. I sometimes write detective-y adventures, and sometimes I write mystery adventures, but I like a really thrilling, exciting story. That's the kind of story that I like to write, and if there can be beetles involved, then that is pretty much
all the better. You're one of the common questions is obviously is about you said about your influences or love of nature, love of beetles. There's obviously what sort of books that you like that kind of inspired you to maybe even get into reading or to get into writing the sort of stories you did. I've got a slide up here. This is obviously 3 of the ones that you love. Very good taste, by the way. And is there any others? So we've got Howl's Moving Castle, obviously The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and The Secret Garden.
Yes.
What sort of, about these books here, I'm sure children have heard of at least one, if not all of these, what kind of really kind of grabbed your, I guess, your soul, as it were, to kind of inspire you from these books?
Well, when I was a child, I was a voracious reader. I mean, I read absolutely everything. I loved all the Roald Dahls. I loved all the Enid Blytons. I mean, I read indiscriminately. I just gobbled down as many books as possible. But certain stories stay with you for your entire life. The Secret Garden is probably my favorite book of all time. And what I loved about that is that Mary, who's quite objectionable at the beginning of this story, she discovers this door, and then she finds the key to this door, and then she opens that door, and beyond that door is this overgrown, forgotten secret garden that basically totally changes her. She goes on this crazy journey, falling in love with nature, learning about plants and the birds and the wildlife that live within a garden, and it makes her into a much nicer, healthier, happier human. And that, to me, I think that story is at the core of everything that I write. When I write about nature and I write about bird watchers or insect lovers or winter, what I'm trying to do is really connect the reader to the elements of nature around them so that they feel a part of this beautiful planet that we live on. And that book had a massive, profound impact on me. And the other books in that little slide there, the Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe and Howl's Moving Castle, the thing that all of these three books have in common, which I realized when I was trying to think of what I might write for my new series, is each of them has a very important door. The Secret Garden obviously has a door into the garden. The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe has the door into Narnia, which not everyone can open or find. And Howl's Moving Castle has a door that opens in 3 different places. Like you can choose without the castle even moving which world you're going to open up into. And I have always loved stories about doors. And in fact, if you look at a book, it is the shape of a door. And when you open it, you go into an amazing world. So I thought, I want to write about doors.
It's brilliant. Now, your latest, so we're gonna jump straight into your latest, because this is taking another one of your, well, it's been part of your life and obviously work you used to do in the past, but obviously another one of your interests and passions, and something that everyone obviously loves, and it's music. So let's have a quick look at the cover again for Hunt for the Golden Scarab. So here we have the first in the series. So this is the first in what's going to be 4 books. In this one, we're jumping into the land of ancient Egypt. So tell us a little bit about what this book's about, also maybe how music kind of connects with the story and the characters of this book, without giving too much away. So I hand over to you for that. Here we go.
Well, so when I started thinking about wanting to write about doors, of course, if you're going to open a door, you're going to need a key. And one of the things that I thought about, I was thinking, well, what kind of a key? What would it be that would open like a special door in my story? And I don't know if any of you out there play musical instruments, but if you do, you might know that a piece of music often is in a certain key. So when you say that music is in the key of F, that means that the notes in the chord of F, they make up the main part of that piece of music. And so music is in a particular key. And I thought, gosh, music also has a time signature. What if the doors opened up into a particular time and you played a piece of music to open them, that music was the key? And that is where the concept for the Time Key series came from. The doors opened into a different time, and they're opened by a piece of music. And that for me was quite magical, because I've not read that before. So that was very exciting to me, to use music. And you can see in the cover with the musical notes that you've got our heroes coming through a door into ancient Egypt, and it's music that opens that door.
So that's the idea. So the Council of Keys in this book, that's obviously linked to what you just spoke about. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is and how your main characters have the
Council of Keys are the baddies, essentially. The Council of Keys is set up to control the doors in time. The problem that the Council of Keys has is that, and I don't know if you know this, but when you're young, your hearing is much, much stronger than an adult's hearing. When you grow up, when you get to my age, you start to lose the high end and the low notes, the high notes and the low notes of your hearing. Young people have much better sensitivity to the vibrations of sound, even physically, and it's something you lose as you grow up. So I thought it would be really wonderful if only children could open these doors in time, that once you got into being an adult, you couldn't do it anymore because you weren't sensitive to the frequency and the vibrations of a door. And so the Council of Keys wants to control children from opening these doors in time. But also, of course, if children open doors in time, it's only a short step for some not very nice adults to want to control children to open the doors for them. And that's what the Council of Keys does.
I think that's such a wonderful idea. And I've never heard of that before. So it's a really unique idea. So this is, as you said, in Egypt. you've got 3 other books in the series, which is obviously jumping into it. What was the next one? Was it Vikings next? It's sort of Norse, and then Romans, and then medieval. Yeah, the last one, was that right? I think it was right.
I haven't written that one yet, so who knows?
Who knows? We got a question for you from a school from you. So that's for this one. So this is St. Nicholas Primary School, Letchworth Garden City. Thank you for your question. How has writing a book set in the past been different from your previous series? I guess not just different, obviously, in terms of that, but different in terms of the challenges maybe that it kind of brought for you in terms of that.
Yeah, it's a really great question, actually. So I am quite well known for how much detail and research I like to go into. So in bird watching and in insects, I do a lot of studying of the subject. The hardest thing about this series is that if you're going to go through a door and you're going to step into a time, you are going to step into a particular day, in a particular month, in a particular year. And I have to decide which day in which month in which year is the most exciting and interesting day to step into. And when you're talking about a subject like ancient Egypt, like the history of that civilization was over 3,000 years. If you think about it, we're only in modern times 2025, right? So 2025 years, 3,000, their entire civilization, and I only get to pick one day into one pharaoh's reign, into one time to step into. So I had to look at the whole of the period, the whole of 3,000 years, decide what I thought was the most interesting, that I could tell the best, most exciting story about. And then like I had to focus my research in, because what I really want is a big historical, rich experience when you're reading this. But I can only pick one tiny bit of the time, and that's hard.
It's mad. That's what I'm saying. It's massive. I mean, it's the world's longest surviving civilization, is it, as a thing? You know, this links into what you just said. This is another question linking into that. But it's Chandler's Ridge Academy in Nunthorpe. Thank you for your question. What made you choose time travel as a basis for your books?
Yes.
You know, so I mean, it's obviously time travel is quite a common thing in all sorts of things. But obviously, as you said, there's a unique way that you've chosen to get into that.
Yes.
Was that always kind of there, or just kind of like something sparked your?
It's like lots of connections, like lots of random thoughts all getting joined together to fuse into an idea for a story like this. But I love reading historical fiction as a grown-up, and I really love. There's a series for grown-ups about a kind of detective lawyer called Shardlake, and it's set in Tudor times during the reign of Henry VIII, and he kind of solves crimes and does like cool mystery stuff, but it's for grown-ups. And when I was in lockdown, I really enjoyed going back to a different time when like diseases were way worse, and you know the food was much more disgusting and everything was just much harder, because it made me feel like actually modern times, like we've got electricity and we've got like working toilets and we've got wonderful things, and it really made me very happy about the time in which I'm alive. And I think historical fiction is great for that. So I wanted to write a series where I did that, where I went back to different times. I personally love history. That's what I studied at university. But I didn't want it to be set in the past. I wanted it to be modern kids getting to like experience and taste different cultures, different societies, different times, and kind of a bit like Doctor Who. I wanted that thrilling kind of adventure, just a little toe dip into each of the times, because ultimately at the end of the day I really try very hard to write books that you guys are going to enjoy reading, and I don't want it to be too much of a lesson. I want it to be a thrilling adventure. So yeah.
So obviously we've got these different things. What was this was from the live chat. This is from Asher McGettigan, I think. Home ed student. Why did you choose the ancient Egypt out of all the time periods? But obviously you've said you've got the other ones, but I suppose to start with that one, you mentioned that sort of the one day out of 3,500 years to jump into. We talk about the sort of the pharaoh figure, if you like, of that period in just a moment. But the why start with the ancient Egyptians? Was that something that you really, it has got a huge fascination for all of us, including children, but why start with that one?
The honest truth?
Yeah.
Because they loved Beatles.
There you go.
Yeah. So one of the things is because there is obviously, as soon as I had the idea, like I wrote a list of all the different time periods that I could travel to and all of the places in those time periods that I thought was most exciting. And it was a huge list. And then I thought, well, I'm going to order them in what the ones like I would be most excited to write first. right? Because your first book in a series, like that's the hardest one to write. You're setting out everything for the whole structure of the series. So I was like, I need a time period that I'm really, really, really enthusiastic about. And of course, the ancient Egyptians loved beetles. They loved scarab beetles. And I can talk about a bit more about that when we get into
you've got that picture. Let's have a look at that. So let's jump forward a bit. So this is the we've got a picture of the scarab beetle, the ancient Egyptian scarab beetle. So explain what the significance that was, especially in sort of all the different gory process that the Egyptians did. Let me just get rid of this question as well. We don't need that at the same time. And then let's have a look. We've got a little picture of a scarab beetle, and then I've got a little tiny video that I'm sorry, you can't speak over that, but it just shows you the scarab beetle and what it actually is. So let's look at so this is the heart scarab of the Keeper of Secrets. So tell us exactly what the significance this scarab amulet has in ancient Egyptian sort of life, I guess.
Like most people don't know what type of beetle a scarab is. And if you watch certain movies, you'll get loads of lies told to you about how scarabs eat your skin and your brains and kill you. And they absolutely don't. A scarab is actually a dung beetle. Scarab is short for Scarabaeus. And Scarabaeus is the Latin name for a dung beetle. And of course, dung beetles roll balls of poop across the ground. And ancient Egyptians used to watch this happening, and then they would look up at the sky and they'd see the sun going across the sky, and they would think, oh, there's a god that rolls the sun across the sky, just like that beetle's rolling a ball of poo across the ground. So that god must be a beetle. And so they had a god called Khepri, who was the god that rolled the sun across the sky during the day. But they also saw that beetles did this incredible thing, which is metamorphosis. So just like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly, a beetle starts off as a larva and it transforms into a beautiful adult beetle. And the ancient Egyptians saw this transformation as something miraculous. And so they associated scarabs with rebirth and the afterlife and regeneration. And so they not only turned scarab beetles into a god, they also made it a very important part of the mummification ritual, because they believed when people died that they went on this epic journey through the underworld. And when you went through this journey through the underworld, you faced many tests, trials. And one of these trials is called the weighing of the heart. So what would happen when they mummified a body, they would take out all the essential organs and they would put them into canopic jars. I have a canopic jar here that I got from Egypt, a little falcon-headed one. Don't worry, my organs aren't inside it. So they'd put the organs into canopic jars, but they would leave the heart inside the body of the mummified person, because they believed the heart was what we now know is the brain. They believed that that's where your intelligence and your memories lived, was within the heart. And that's why your heart was weighed by Anubis when you went through this trial in the Duat, the underworld. And so everybody's a little bit naughty. Even if you're the goodest person there is that's ever been, you probably have done a few things that are a bit naughty. But in this trial, if your heart was not as light as a feather, then you would get cast into a fiery pit full of crocodiles, and that would be pretty bad. So what they did is they got scarabs, heart scarabs. So I have two here. They carved them out of stone. And once they had carved them out of stone, they would put a spell on the underside. I don't know if you can see that in hieroglyphs. This is a spell from the Book of the Dead. And they would put the scarab over the heart as they mummified you, and the spell would bind all your secrets to the heart scarab. So every naughty thing that you did in your life would be like absorbed by the heart scarab. So when you went through the underworld and your heart was weighed against a feather, the scarab would keep all of your secrets and your heart would be light and free, so you could pass through the underworld. So it wasn't just a god of the sky, it was a god of protecting secrets as you went through the most important journey, because they believed once you completed that journey, you'd return to your body. That's why it was mummified, so that you could return to it. You would get your organs back out of their canopic jars, and you would become a god, and you would live forever.
This is good. Let's have a look. I've got a little scarab beetle. It's only 10 seconds. It just shows the scarab beetle rolling the dung across the desert. There's no sound, I don't think, but let's just have a quick look at this. Here we go.
Yeah, and if you watch this, you can understand why it was that they thought of the sun rolling across the sky. I just think it's I just think beetles are fabulous, but
Yeah,
they're so small in comparison to the dung as well.
It's quite incredible, isn't it? And the strength as well, isn't it? It must be exhausted. It's so hot. So just a reminder, this is Howard Carter discovering Tutankhamun's tomb. It's 1922, I think it is. As we know, Tutankhamun's tomb was one of the richest finds that the archaeologists ever found, with the treasures inside that. So hopefully back with Myra in a minute, but just keep enjoying this one. Okay, so I hope that gives you sort of an idea of what the archaeologists were discovering here. So obviously, that was Howard Carter first discovering Tutankhamun in 1922. But of course, nowadays, we can all go in and have a look if you can get to Egypt. So let's have a quick look at Maya here. It's her actually doing a bit of research and going to Tutankhamun tomb herself as well. So have a quick look at this.
So this is the only bit of the tomb that is painted, this area, and that's the north wall. Very important to notice the north wall. Down there is a little door that's in the story called the Treasury, and that's where Howard Carter discovered all of the gold objects that he discovered. There is the sarcophagus. The north wall is very important. I'm going to explain this in the next video. That painting there of Tutankhamun in white is important. And these monkeys as well, there are 12 of them, and each monkey represents an hour in the night, which is the journey through the underworld. You can see the boat there with the scarab on it. That all represents the journey that the dead person, Tutankhamun in this case, was going to go on. And there is his clay sarcophagus. It was like Russian dolls. There was coffin within coffin within coffin, the last one being solid gold. The clay one is still there. The rest of it's in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. There's another door here, an annex to the antechamber, which was stuffed with treasure. And here, this is actual mummy body of Tutankhamun. I couldn't believe when I went down in the tomb that his mummy is still there. They don't believe that it's good to take the mummy out of the tomb. They think there will be a curse on them if they take the mummy out of the tomb. So I actually got to see the 3,000-year-old mummified body of Tutankhamun, who was 19 when he was mummified, laid out there. And it was the most incredible experience of my life. Honestly, I've never, ever experienced anything like it.
I had no idea that was in there. I mean, because obviously over the years, a lot of those tombs are obviously robbers, but obviously even some of the later pharaohs kind of stole, mummies and bits and put them in other tombs. So I had no idea. Did you know that was in there when you were going down or not? It just literally.
Oh yes, no, I knew it was going to be there. I was very excited. But the thing is that every other tomb in the Valley of the Kings has been robbed over millennia. The thing about Tutankhamun's that made it so special when Howard Carter discovered it, I have an animation actually which I can explain this as like
we actually showed that while you're on the panel. We have showed, so they have seen that, and I think
as Howard Carter like removed each wall, the first wall that he removes, where you get to the first room, that had been robbed before, so that robbers had discovered the tomb and got into that bit before. What they hadn't done is removed the wall into the chamber with the painting, the north chamber, and where that drawing is of Tutankhamun's head, because he's all in white. This archaeologist, Nicholas Reeve, believes that was originally Nefertiti's face, and that Tutankhamun was painted over the top because he thinks the reason why Tutankhamun's tomb is much smaller than any other king's in the Valley of the Kings is because it's actually the antechamber to Nefertiti's tomb. That actually through that north wall there is another door, because he scanned the stones and you can see if there's rubble and sand piled up rather than just sheet rock. He believes there is a passageway that will lead to Nefertiti's tomb, but they cannot open it up because to do so would destroy Tutankhamun's tomb, which is the best preserved tomb archaeologists have ever found. So
we have it's a Nefertiti. So she's obviously featured in your book. So this is the sort of bust head they found of her, which is obviously very famous, very iconic. She's in your book. Tell me tell me a bit about her, and also what we know and how she kind of features in your book without giving too much away. Because this is amazing.
One of the things that I love about Nefertiti, and in fact about ancient Egypt, is some of the most powerful pharaohs were women. Which is something that you don't really think about. You often think of pharaohs as male, but the most successful pharaoh in the history of ancient Egypt was called Hatshepsut, and she was a woman. And everybody knows that Queen Nefertiti was the queen of Akhenaten, who was a very famous pharaoh because he got rid of the system of 2,000 ancient Egyptian gods just to worship the one god, the sun, the Aten. But his wife was Nefertiti, and she was known as being this very beautiful woman. And when this bust was discovered, like her kind of beauty became even more amplified. But archaeologists have discovered that when Akhenaten died, Nefertiti became Neferatan and ruled as a regent when he was getting ill towards the end of his life. And then there was this strange king that ruled for a couple of years before Tutankhamun, called Smenkhare, and they couldn't find any record of a person or anyone in the lineage that could possibly have been Smenkhare. And what happens when people become pharaohs is their name gets changed. They get given a pharaonic name. And what they believe is that actually Smenkhare was Nefertiti. So she went from being the wife of Akhenaten to being the regent of ancient Egypt to then being king or pharaoh Smenkhare before Tutankhamun. And that's something that that theory is something that I really loved, because I love the idea of women kings, as it were. And she is very famous because of her beauty and her power, which was, it's unusual. So historically, I think she's a really intriguing figure. Plus, there's the mystery of where her tomb could be. And I love the theory that Nicholas Reeve has. And one of the things, as a writer of stories, it's really wonderful when there's a theory that can't ever be proved right or wrong. But that's the old mystery, isn't it? That's the old mystery. You mentioned that we're going to offer a couple of quick school questions. Then we'll just talk a little bit about your research, and we've got a few photographs to show you, as well as the video you're showing, a couple of photographs, and you can place where that. And then we're going to have a reading from the Golden Scarab as well before May has to make her way off for other adventures herself. So let's have a look at this.
Here we go. King Edward the Sixth Preparatory School in Romsey. Thank you for your question. Do you believe in Egyptian tombs being cursed? We want to believe it, don't we?
I love a curse, and I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
there's a real mythology around the curse of Tutankhamun's tomb, because Lord Carnarvon, who obviously funded Howard Carter's dig, did die about 6 months after the tomb was opened, and Arthur Conan Doyle, the author who wrote the Sherlock Holmes stories, actually wrote a whole newspaper article on how Lord Carnarvon and Howard Carter were cursed, I think. In these situations, it turns out that I think Howard Carter just had malaria, or not Howard Carter, sorry, Lord Carnarvon had malaria or some such illness. But I do love the mystery of a curse. Like, I have written a story called Danger at Dead Man's Past that's all about a family curse. I love the spookiness and the mystery, but I love discovering that underneath it all, there's some bizarre truth that isn't actually a curse, but there is a reason why it might affect people. It's great for writing stories.
So thank King Edward the Sixth Preparatory School. Thank you for the question. And another, when you mentioned this before, but it's a kind of it's a good question. St. Paul's Catholic Primary School in Alnwick. Thank you very much. What can we learn from how the ancient Egyptians regarded scarab beetles? That's a great question, actually.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it's really key that I think it's a really beautiful thing when we observe nature and we incorporate the truths that we witness in nature into our lives. Like, for example, Charles Darwin used to collect beetles. He loved beetles. He studied and watched beetles, and he was a pretty mad bird spotter too. And when he went to the islands in the Galapagos and started studying all the creatures that he saw there, he noticed that beetles and birds had evolved to stop flying over dangerous seas because it would kill them. And so by watching beetles, he came up with the theory of evolution. I think if you study nature and you ask questions and you're curious, you'll answer some of the bigger questions in life. And I think, like, insects in particular are the most interesting because they're the most overlooked. So I think we could learn a little bit from ancient Egyptians in the way that they watched beetles.
Absolutely. Great answer. Great question. So what do we do? Should we jump straight into a reading now?
Yes.
So we get that reading?
Don't run out of time.
Don't run out of time. And then we can look at the photographs afterwards, and then you can speak around them as the time you've got. So let's hand over to May now for a reading from Hunt for the Golden Scarab. And then we'll be back afterwards with a bit more photographs and a couple more of your questions.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I'm just going to set the scene. Okay, so they've gone to the Valley of the Kings during the day and they've had a look around. But then our heroes, Sim, his mum, Calidora, and Jeopardy, his cousin, they have all returned to the Valley of the Kings in the middle of the night. Okay, so here we go. They slowed when they reached the path winding through the tombs. The gravel crunched under their feet, and Sim kept looking nervously over his shoulder. But they were alone. Each tomb was sealed with metal doors, fastened with chains and padlocks. "Can you pick locks?" Sim asked his mum as they descended the steps under the canopy over Tutankhamun's tomb. "I don't need to." She inserted a key into the padlock, turned it, and it opened. "I've got skeleton keys." Pulling the metal door open, Calidora slipped inside, turning on her head torch. She ushered Jeopardy and Sim towards the dark mouth of the tomb. As he entered the antechamber, Jeopardy yanked Sim away from Tutankhamun's mummy, pointing up, reminding him of the camera angled towards the corpse. They followed Calidora over the railing, dropping down into the burial chamber. She kneeled opposite the north wall, studying it. "That," she pointed to a painted, bearded figure dressed in white with crossed flail and staff, "is Tutankhamun. This chap wearing the skin of a cheetah is I, his successor. Their names are written in cartouches above their heads." "What's a cartouche?" Jeopardy whispered. "Well, you see that oval with a line at one end?" Sim pointed. "The shape always contains the name of a royal person or a god. It's called a cartouche. Here, I is performing the opening of the mouth ceremony on Tutankhamun's mummy," Calidora continued. "But Professor Wallace from the British Museum told me that the cartouches and the outlines of the faces of these figures have been painted over, that this," she pointed to the white figure, "was once Nefertiti, and this," she pointed to the figure in his cheetah skin, was originally Tutankhamun. The successor always presides over the burial of the previous pharaoh. This is his evidence that this chamber was originally the entrance to Nefertiti's tomb. She looked at Sim and Jeopardy. Shall we see if Wallace is right? What does it feel like when you go through a time door? Sim asked. Oh, it's a nice fizzy tingling, his mum replied, like having popping candy inside your chest. She took her black wig out of her rucksack, removing the head torch, and put it on. She wriggled out of her tracksuit to reveal her white cotton dress, and she stuffed her clothes into the bag. Jeopardy did the same. With a black eyeliner pencil, Calidora drew thick black lines around her own eyes and then Jeopardy's. How do we look? Jeopardy asked, as she slipped her feet into a pair of leather sandals and lifted her pocket trumpet strap over her head. Good. Sim nodded, unsure of the right response. So you look after this, his mum said, passing him her bag as she stood in front of the painted mural of Tutankhamun. Sim clutched his mum's bag to his chest, moving out of the way into an alcove, his back pressed against a small metal door that led to the treasury. Sim, when we go through, we'll be gone from this time, his mum said. But time will pass for us at the same speed as it does for you. We will hurry to Nefertiti's burial chamber, but it may take us some time to locate the Golden Scarab and come back. Well, how long will you be gone? Sim asked, feeling a surge of fear at the thought of being left. Not more than 1 hour, his mum reassured him. It's night here, so it'll be night there. The tomb should be empty, but this is not an exact science. Now, if anything happens to us, she lifted a finger and looked him dead in the eye, which it won't, but if it does, you're to go back to Ayman. Do you understand? Sim tried to nod. Okay, are you ready, Jeopardy? You betcha. Jeopardy patted her trumpet case, looking excited. Calidora lifted the bamboo flute and played a long, mournful note. Closing her eyes, she felt her way through a series of notes until she picked out an achingly sad song. Sim felt the same dizzy sensation he'd experienced earlier in the day, as if every mote of dust in the tomb were juddering and buzzing around him. He moaned as he was struck by a blinding headache. The clashing tunes that he'd heard that morning were there again, louder this time. His vision blurred as Jeopardy put her hand to the wall and it sank through the stone. As the volume of the music grew, nausea wrenched Sim's stomach and a golden light blinded him. He hugged his mum's rucksack, screwing his eyes shut as his knees buckled and he fell to the floor. The music stopped suddenly. He opened his eyes and found he was alone.
Dun, 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 dun. So look, you just mentioned the some of the characters there. I know we're going to look at the research quickly. We're going to sort of pack a load in very, very quickly. Let's have a quick look. So the illustrations, I've got another one here. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly. Manuel Sumbarak, is that called?
Yes, Sumbarak, yes.
Manuel Sumbarak. It's done brilliant illustration throughout the book. Really bring Maya's words to life. So let's have a quick look at some of the characters in the book. So you've mentioned a couple of these just in your reading there.
So in that reading, you met Sim, who plays the piano. And obviously a piano is not an instrument that you can take to a time door. It's very heavy. It doesn't move. But he is really good at martial arts because Calidora, his mum, runs a dojo where she teaches Aikido and karate and judo. And so she and he have sparred ever since he was little. So he's brilliant at fighting. Nelson is Sim's best friend and Jeopardy is Sim's cousin. And as you can see from these illustrations, Jeopardy, Calidora and Sim are all musical. Nelson, however, is not, but he's incredibly intelligent and he loves a good mystery.
That's brilliant. So you get an idea of the characters and the wonderful illustrations that accompany Maya's book. So let's have a look. We've got a few jumps into some of your research. So we've seen your exploration into Tutankhamun's tomb. So tell us a little bit about where you went in Egypt from these pictures, where you are, and how that kind of informed your
Yes.
writing process, and maybe sort of even changed it, your ideas as you were going along. So let's have a look at the first one. Here we go.
Yes, so the first thing I did when I decided I was going to go to ancient Egypt was get on an aeroplane to go to actual Egypt, because I thought that would really help me decide exactly when and where I wanted to go. So this is a picture of me on a boat. I did a Nile cruise. I went to Luxor and went up, south, I should say, down the Nile to the Aswan Dam, and then back up again. And obviously in Luxor, which used to be the capital of ancient Egypt, it used to be Thebes, that's where the Valley of the Kings is. The Valley of the Kings is on the west side of the Nile, and the city is on the east side. Because the sun rises in the east, that's where they thought people who were living should live, and it sets in the west. So on the west bank, that's where all the tombs are. No one really lives there.
Okay, so next one. This is a bit more, a few different ones here.
Yeah, so what I got to do is go to visit lots of different temples. And obviously this is where I started to realize that scarabs were a key part of ancient Egyptian culture. There's loads of hieroglyphs of scarabs. You can see next to me in a hat there, next to a scarab in a temple that I visited. That in the top, that's me in a Nubian village. They have pet crocodiles there. They've got a little band around the crocodile's mouth so that he wouldn't bite me. But they're actually quite cute. I'd never thought I'd say that about a crocodile. And one of the things that really blew me away about the temples that I visited, you know, these are more than, well, now they're like 5,000 years old, some of them. And the hieroglyphs are stunningly beautiful. But in the day that they would have been made, they would often be painted, so that some of the temples had incredible colors. And what I wanted to do was really get a sense of like what Egypt is like now and what it was like, you know, 3,000 years ago. So that was really important when I was doing the trip, was to be able to picture, like, you know, how faded these are, but like in the days when they would have carved, they would have been really deep and beautiful colors, and that's a big difference in the experience of the time. Yeah.
Okay, so this is you on the boat again, doing more writing on the boat. Just ask you a quick question. So the when you went to this sort of research trip, did you have a firm idea of what the story was going to be, or did it kind of develop with what you saw when you were there?
Yeah, one of the reasons why, because I like to write about things that are real and really exist in the world, because I believe, like, I love reading fantasy, but often what you discover in the real world and on this planet, even in the history of humans, is more weird and bonkers and bizarre than anything you could invent in a fantasy. Like, if you think about the process of mummification and the fact that they believed that beetles that rolled poo around were sacred, like if you invented that in a fantasy world, people would be like, oh, I'm not sure that's really very believable.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah.
It's true. So I like to, you know, I had an idea about doors and music and ancient Egypt. But then I went there before I'd really formed anything too much. I suspected Valley of the Kings is where I was going, but I went into lots of different tombs. The tomb of Tutankhamun is just so exciting. Like, it really genuinely is, because of Howard Carter, because I've read all of Howard Carter's diaries of his excavation of that discovery. Like, some of the other tombs are way more impressive, like deeper in the earth, bigger chambers. Still, the painting is still there. The skies are blue. And like, honestly, they're incredible things to experience. But there's something about Tutankhamun being a boy as well, being like a pharaoh when he became a pharaoh when he was like 9 years old. Obviously, I write about kids. So for me, like, he was just the most interesting pharaoh of all of them. And so as I was there, I got loads and loads of ideas, and I let the ideas kind of take me to where I think the story should go. Yeah, one of the things that I learned, we had this amazing guide, an Egyptologist who took us everywhere. I asked him about mummification, and there's a whole bit in the book that is from what he told me about how the Per Nefer, which is the name of the kind of construction they did the mummification in, they would be built right at the top of those mountains that you see in the Valley of the Kings. The mountains go right up to the top. They would do the mummification up on the top of a mountain in a tent with kind of like fabric that could be opened, just because the smell was really
the smell.
You wouldn't want to do it. You wouldn't want to do it in your house. No. So
it's not a good job, is it? Let's face it, not a good job. Although, you know. I know you got a dash. We're gonna have one really quick question for the live chat you can answer very, very quickly. So, Elm Class in Harlands, thank you very much, Harlands. How many days did it take you to write this book?
Oh.
Days to the hour.
Yeah, I don't know about days. It definitely, like, the first book in a series, and in particular this one, because it's such an enormous historical period, took me about 18 months to begin from beginning. Like, the first draft of this book was terrible and very long, and it took me a real long time to finesse it and hone it and work out how the time travel worked. Because all these concepts are so important with the first book, because obviously in every single book that follows, these concepts are going to be rolled out again and again and again.
Yeah, got to follow through.
You can't mess up the first book. So it took me about 1.5 years to do this first book.
Let's put our hands together. MG Leonard, thank you very much. Lovely to speak to you, and good luck with the book. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Mr Dilly. It's been lovely.
Thanks a lot. Take care. Enjoy the week. Bye bye. So that's fantastic. That MG Leonard there. It's been great to be with you again for another Mr Dilly Meets. And it just leaves me to say the following things. Thank you for being with me. My name is Mr Dilly, of course, and it's goodbye from me and my friends. It is goodbye from me. Thank you for joining me. Bye bye.